You think you're good enough for my daughter? The voice struck him like a slap. Everyone in the mansion foyer turned. Daniel froze. His palms were still dusty from the construction site. He hadn't even stepped fully inside before Mr. Harrington, one of the richest men in the state, stood in front of him like an executioner. Sir, Don't sir me, Harrington barked. You have no money, no pedigree, no status, and you walk into my home wearing boots. Guests stared, laughed under their breath. Daniel swallowed. Then came the worst blow, from the one person he hoped to rely on. Dad, please, Emily began. Emily, enough. You're humiliating yourself. Daniel felt the weight of the moment sink into his bones. He opened his mouth to defend himself, but Harrington stepped closer, eyes cold. My daughter will not throw her life away on a boy who doesn't even own a car. If you come near her again, I'll destroy your life so thoroughly you'll wish you were never born. Emily gasped. Daniel stood in silence, the victim of a power he couldn't match. And as he watched Emily's tear-streaked face, one thought echoed in his mind. I'll remember this day, and life will remember it too. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, we want to thank you for your support, love, and kindness. We wouldn't have come this far without you. Subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue to bring you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city and country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the story. Daniel hadn't planned to walk into that battlefield. He came because Emily asked, begged, him to come meet her family properly, instead of sneaking around in fear. They had been dating for 8 months. 8 months of stolen hours, cheap coffee shops, and quiet laughter. Emily, bright and stubborn, never cared about money. Daniel, hardworking and humble, never cared about riches. But her father cared about everything Daniel didn't have. Daniel worked construction. He didn't come from generational wealth. He came from generational struggle. He arrived at the mansion with hope. He left with humiliation. As soon as the door shut behind him, Harrington's security guard approached him with a smirk. Boss says you need to leave immediately. Through the side entrance, not the front. Humiliation burned inside him, but he walked. He didn't want to cause trouble for Emily. Then the guard whispered, She's a billionaire's daughter. Stay in your lane. Daniel didn't reply. He simply tightened his jaw and left. Emily was dragged to her father's study for hours. When she came out, her face was pale. I'm sorry, she whispered to Daniel over the phone. He said if I keep seeing you, he'll cut me off. Remove me from the company inheritance. Freeze my accounts. Fire anyone who employs you. Daniel closed his eyes. He can't control your heart, but he can ruin your life. Her voice broke, and for the first time, Daniel felt fear not for himself, but for what she was sacrificing just to love him. The next week at her father's charity gala, Emily overheard the whispers. A construction worker? Does he even have a degree? Probably chasing her money. She'll get bored. Poor boys always crack under pressure. Emily defended him. They laughed harder. She didn't know that Daniel had heard them too. He was working as part of the crew setting up the event. He stood behind a curtain, silent, holding a toolbox, listening to her defend him while her world treated him like dirt. It carved something into him, something deep, something unbreakable. 2 weeks later, the Harrington Foundation was hosting an investor's presentation worth millions. Daniel was hired as part of the technical team, not for Emily, but because he refused to stop working hard, no matter how humiliated he felt. He didn't know Harrington had already found out he was on the staff list. Halfway through setup, the head coordinator approached him nervously. I'm sorry, you've been removed from the project. Daniel blinked. Why? I've done nothing wrong. The coordinator looked terrified. You're dating Harrington's daughter. He said if I let you work here, I'd never get another contract in the city. Daniel stood still. Not shocked, just tired. But as he walked toward the exit, a group of rich young men, Emily's cousins, blocked his path. Well, the charity case returns. Emily has terrible taste. Dude, you even own a suit? You planning to ask her to marry you with a plastic ring? They laughed. One shoved his shoulder. Daniel didn't fight. He walked away. But every insult carved itself into the future. Emily confronted her father again. This time, Harrington didn't yell. He smirked. Fine. If you want him, let's see if he survives what's coming. She didn't understand, but Daniel did. Within a week, his shifts were cut at work. His landlord refused to renew his lease. Stores where he bought supplies suddenly lost his orders. His college scholarship request was declined. A police officer randomly pulled him over and searched his car. Harrington was squeezing him. Silently, professionally, ruthlessly. The message was clear. You are too poor, and you will remain poor. One night, crying, Emily told Daniel, "My dad said if I keep seeing you, he'll make sure your mother loses her medical coverage." Daniel froze. His mother was recovering from surgery. Her insurance was through a company Harrington heavily invested in. Emily saw the horror on Daniel's face. "I didn't want to tell you," she whispered, "but he'll do it. Daniel, he doesn't just have power. He enjoys using it." Daniel let go of her hand, tears in his eyes. "We're trapped," she whispered. "He's killing everything around you, piece by piece." Daniel exhaled shakily. "Emily, maybe we should take a break." She broke, sobbing in his arms. "I love you, but your love is what's destroying your life." He held her, broken too, but firm. "I'll find a way. I'll build a life no one can touch. I promise you." That night changed Daniel forever. He began working double shifts, then triple shifts. He read business books in the restroom. He studied coding late at night. He took online courses. He watched lectures during lunch breaks. He saved every cent. While Emily cried in her mansion, grieving the distance, Daniel was reinventing himself in silence. He disappeared from her life almost completely, not because he stopped loving her, but because he needed to rise to a place where no billionaire could crush him again. And for the first time, he believed it was possible. 1 year later, Daniel was no longer a construction worker. He was a tech developer with a small startup built from nothing but fury and hope. A startup that was about to explode. A startup Harrington didn't know existed. A startup with a product every major corporation suddenly needed. Harrington would soon learn that the boy he crushed was becoming the man he would need. And when that moment arrived, life would turn the tables so violently that the entire world would hear it. A year passed like a storm. Emily waited, painfully, silently, for a man who vanished to rebuild what her father destroyed. Daniel didn't call. He didn't text. He didn't even show up near her community. But she watched him from a distance, through whispered updates from people who knew him, through small hints on social media, through the glow in his mother's eyes whenever his name was mentioned. Daniel wasn't fading. He was evolving. He now wore tailored shirts instead of dusty vests. His hands weren't covered in cement. They were covered in code and business plans. He co-founded a software startup that specialized in predictive logistics, and within 12 months, his platform was being tested by 3 mid-sized companies. But the real break came unexpectedly. A global supply chain crisis hit the country. Every major corporation was scrambling for a solution. Every one of them, including Harrington Global Enterprises. And only one startup had the exact product needed, Daniel's. Harrington Global had lost millions in delays. Investors were panicking. Analysts were predicting a massive downfall. Emily heard the boardroom arguments. She was her father's intern now. "Sir, there's a startup that solved this exact issue." "What startup?" "Riverton Tech." "Riverton? Never heard of it." "Their name is everywhere right now. They created a real-time supply predictor. Investors are flocking." Emily's heart tightened. Riverton, Daniel's childhood neighborhood. Her breath shook as she whispered, "Daddy, who owns the company?" But no one answered. They didn't know. Yet, Harrington instructed his executives. "Set up a meeting. Immediately. I don't care who owns it. I want them in my office." Minutes later, a reply arrived. "Riverton Tech acknowledges your request. Meeting accepted. CEO will attend in person. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Emily stared at the sender's name at the bottom. Daniel A. King. Her knees nearly buckled. He had taken her last name, not out of arrogance, but because he vowed to build a life worthy enough to stand beside hers. The next morning, The boardroom was filled with tension. Executives sat stiffly. Assistants whispered. Investors waited impatiently. Emily was there because her father insisted. You'll see what real power looks like today. But the moment Daniel walked in, the room fell silent. The man they bullied, the boy they called dirt, the construction worker they shoved aside like trash, walked in wearing a charcoal suit, confident, tall, and unshakable. Not a trace of fear. Not a trace of the boy her father once crushed. Harrington froze, jaw clenched, eyes widening with horror. You, he whispered. Daniel nodded politely. Good morning, Mr. Harrington. You asked for my help. The room shifted. Heads turned. Executives exchanged looks. Emily pressed a hand to her heart. She wanted to run to him, but she stayed still. Harrington cleared his throat. If I had known it was you. Daniel sat down gracefully. That's why you didn't know. The power flipped instantly. Daniel placed a document on the table. This is my licensing agreement. Your company wants access to my system. Here are the terms. Harrington grabbed the paper and nearly choked. It was expensive, brutally expensive, but necessary. No negotiation? Harrington asked. Daniel's voice was calm but cold. When you try to destroy my life, you didn't negotiate. The room inhaled sharply. Emily closed her eyes, tears threatening. I'm sorry, she whispered suddenly, standing. The room turned. She didn't care. I'm sorry for everything you went through, for what my father did to you, for how everyone treated you. Her voice cracked. You deserve love, not pain. Harrington snapped. Emily, sit down. No, Daniel said quietly. Let her speak. Her father's face reddened with fury. He had just been ordered by the one man he once humiliated. Emily turned to the room. The boy you mocked, the man you dismissed, is the only reason this company won't collapse. She looked at her father. And you taught me what real poverty is. Not lack of money, but lack of character. Gasps erupted. Harrington slammed a fist on the table. Enough! Daniel stood. Actually, yes, enough. Daniel looked Harrington dead in the eyes. You destroyed opportunities for me. Threatened my mother's health care. Humiliated me publicly. Tried to strip me of dignity. He stepped closer. I survived. I rebuilt. And now your company depends on the man you called too poor to be loved. The room trembled with tension. Investors whispered. He owns the future. Harrington messed with the wrong person. He's finished. Harrington's face was pale. Do you want the contract or not? Daniel asked. Harrington swallowed hard. Yes. Then sign it. Hands shaking, Harrington signed. The humiliation was complete. As the meeting ended, Daniel walked out. Emily followed him to the hallway. Her voice was soft, trembling. Did you hate me all this time? Daniel turned slowly. I never hated you. I hated that I couldn't protect you. I hated that loving you was a reason your father tried to ruin my life. She stepped closer. And now, he exhaled. Now, I built a life where no one can threaten me again. She wiped a tear. Does that mean we can try again? He studied her, not with the insecurity of a poor boy, but with the clarity of a man who had earned his throne. Only, he said softly, if it's what you still want. She almost collapsed into him. I never stopped wanting you. They embraced, gentle, honest, equal. For the first time, love wasn't a crime. It was a victory. Daniel's rise became one of the most remarkable stories in the city. A boy once dismissed as too poor, now a powerhouse reshaping an industry, not out of spite, but out of purpose. People whispered his name with respect. Investors sought him out. Communities celebrated him. And Emily stood beside him, not as a billionaire's daughter, but as the woman who believed in him before the world did. Mr. Harrington learned the final lesson too late. You can look down on a seed, but someday you'll need the shade of the tree becomes.